y'all, it's Laura and welcome to a new craft tour. Now I'm in a different room of my house at this point. This is technically the formal dining room, but we've never really used it for that. And so I've decided to go ahead and set up as my craft room and office, but it is a multi-purpose space. I also have a table that my youngest son uses for homeschool and that my twins use to paint and color. And it's very helpful for me to have them have a space that is dedicated to that so that they're not using the nice kitchen table. We have kind of an older table in here they can use, but I also use this as a storage space. I have all of my albums in a Kallax behind me, and I have another Kallax on the other side of the room that holds a lot of my supplies. So I am going to show you the entire space. We'll do a quick overview tour first so that you can see how the room is set up and how everything fits into the space. And if that's all you want to see, that's great. And if not, I have more details coming after that, like how I film at my desk, how my desk is set up, because I keep a lot of things close at hand. My room is a working craft room, which means that I am in here every single day working on some project or another. And so I keep a lot of things close at hand on my desk and in my drawers. And you're also gonna see little peeks of things that I'm very passionate about, things that are very important to me, because those are incorporated into this space as well. So let's dive into that full room tour first, and then we'll talk organization and storage. Now, my craft room is located right off of the front door of our house. So it's very important that it stay neat and clean as much as possible. And it is through a nice big open archway that you can enter. So there's no door to clothes. And I actually really appreciate that. It makes me feel like I'm more a part of what the family's doing, and the kids wander in to check it out. Now this is a view from the kitchen area, which is toward the center of the house, whereas the first view is from the front door. Now, here is my desk area. I do have two carts that I use specifically for crafting. I have an office and computer space on one side, and I have my work area on the other. I have a lot of photos and a huge gallery wall that goes up one side of my room, and this contains 12 by 12 white shadow boxes that hold 12 different layouts. I do switch them out periodically as I get interested in different things, and I really like the way they look. They give me a lot of inspiration and ideas when I'm feeling a little bit stuck. Sometimes it's good to have your art on the wall. Now on this wall I have two large photos. One is of my twins when they were babies, and the other is of my entire family. And coming down into my workspace, you'll notice I have a lot of things on the desk, and pretty much every space that isn't going to be on camera is covered. This is my phone mount that I put my iPhone into while I'm filming down here on the workspace. I have a silicone mat that protects my work surface, and then I have three lights that illuminate the right side of my work surface to offset all of the light that comes in from the one large fixture in the center of the room that only lights at the left-hand side. So this helps to balance out the light between the left and the right side of the room, and so I don't have a lot of shadowing. Now, right next to my desk, I also keep the current kit that I'm working on. In the back on a shelf behind my desk, I keep another kit that I like to pull from. And as you can see, this L shape really opens up a lot of work area and gives me plenty of space to spread out and have all of my hobbies represented and easily accessed. Now behind my desk is a 2x4 Kallax shelf, as well as this small drawer cart from Michaels. And I really like having open storage, so you'll see quite a bit of this in my room. I like being able to see all of the bits and pieces. I like to easily find things very, very quickly. I use a lot of clear storage as well. I will put all of the links for the storage options in the description box below if you'd like to check them out. Next to that 2x4 Kallax, I have a 4x4 Kallax. On top, I have my printers. I have some Harry Potter figurines and a third kit. I have a lot of my storage in this particular Kallax. So the bulk of my non-collection stash is in this Kallax. Next to it, I have a giant window which overlooks onto a tall table that my kids use for both homeschool and art projects. I like having them in my space. I like having a dedicated place for them to be I just think it makes the whole room feel more welcoming, and I can also keep an eye on them while they're using messy things. Over here in this corner, I keep my Cocoa Vanilla collections up at the top in these Totally Tiffany magazine holders. I have a couple of Recollections cubes that I keep extra mixed media and some of the smaller brands that I love in as well. I have a set of Alex drawers here at the bottom for more collection storage and a little trolley for my son's homeschool things. I'm using a lot of vertical space on this final wall, which holds my albums. It holds bits and pieces that are not as important to me and that I don't need right away up high and out of the way. But that's pretty much the room. Let's dive into the details. I have two craft carts in my room and they perform very different purposes for me. This teal one is from Michaels and it has some bits and pieces on the side for additional storage. This one is from IKEA and it does not. Now the white containers on the Michaels craft cart came from IKEA. The teal colored ones came with the cart. There were some additional pieces that I did not like and so I don't use. But these two cards have different purposes for me. This one is one that I keep right next to my desk and it contains a lot of my most used items. So up at the top we have a pink basket full of thickers. This basket came from Hobby Lobby. I then have my stitching pad here. I have some templates behind it, and this and my binder tool were a set and it's from the We Are Memory Keepers binder tool. That's to the side. I have a journal, I have a small guillotine cutter, and then here are my roller stamps. So these are intended to hold 4x6 photos, but I use them to hold a variety of embellishments, all of which are marked, and it has a little tray that they sit into. So I have epoxy flare, cork, wood veneer, journaling cards, paper florals, and rosettes. These little containers came from IKEA, and I have them in small and large. In the front, they're holding my favorite pens and pencils for journaling. I have a small little spray bottle for mixed media and some Nuvo adhesive, which I've only tried a couple of times, but I do like. I have a little container of tags just to grab if I need a quick tag. These small punches I have found really useful. And these came from Hobby Lobby as well. And I have a heart, star, a butterfly, and a floral. And then I have a slightly larger version of those same shapes. Over there, I have some dies and templates. They're like stitching templates. And I use these largely in the place of die cuts or a die cutting machine. So I don't have a silhouette anymore. And so I use those to create large shapes now. Down at the bottom, I have all of my alpha stamps by size. I have some mixed media stuff and a journal, my favorite watercolors, and Vicky Boutin art crayons. Turning it around, on this side, there is washi storage and this little basket that I don't actually use because for some reason, whenever I put anything in here, my twins steal it. So I don't know why, but they do. So I just don't put anything in there for the moment. One thing I will say about this is a pegboard that is attached to the side of the cart, comes with the cart. I love this concept, but I have a problem with this design. The ends of these pegs need to be lifted. They need to be slightly angled because if I'm wearing a long dress and I walk past my washi, and this happens several times a week, and if I walk right past my washi, several of them will go flying. It is super annoying. Multiple times a day, one of my kids will get too close to the cart and bump it, and some of the washi will go flying. So I am considering asking my husband to modify it, but we'll see how we go. On the back, this tray came with the cart. There was also a piece that looked like ribbon storage. I had two long poles. I don't really use ribbon much, so I kind of skipped that. I have these larger containers back here. This one holds my little stapler and these little punches. And I use these, got them from Hobby Lobby. I use them to cut up glitter paper for my scattering piece, little detail pieces on my layout. So I have several shapes here. I keep an empty cup for watercoloring and a little container of those little dauber sponges for inking. And that's pretty much it for this cart. So this cart is definitely my go-to cart. It's things that I often reach for. I do have my thicker storage up here at the top. This is sorted in a very intentional way. I have white and then different color, white, black, and then all of the other colors on one side. But I use more often gold, silver, and wood grain. So I have gold, silver, and wood grain on the right side. And this type of organization will make it really easy for you to find the right letter stickers for your layout, because more often than not, you're going to be looking for a color to coordinate with your layout. So I would really recommend organizing them this way. Another quick tip, I have my alphas first, and then after all of the alphas are the word phrases. So in this case, I have alpha, alpha, alpha in white, and then word phrases. And I find that much easier. I also put smaller alphas at the front, larger alphas at the back. Again, just making it much easier for me to find exactly what I'm looking for. I will tell you that I have stopped purchasing alphas because I have enough to fill my current storage. I don't need any more, and I don't have a place to put any more. So I have stopped buying alphas. I still get them occasionally in kits, but I don't purchase any more intentionally. So keep that in mind. With the second cart, this has a very different purpose. This holds my in-progress projects and extra supplies. So up here at the top, I have a pretty big collection of puffy stickers, enamel stickers, chipboard, little clips, and let's see, washi. I have stickers, some sticker books, things that I want to incorporate into my stash kits. A lot of this stuff in the past I have gotten from, like those Hip Kit and Citrus Twist grab bags. And so they're a mix of companies, a mix of bits and pieces. And I like to incorporate a variety of embellishments in my stash kits just to give me a lot of things to choose from. And so by organizing them this way, they're in these little acrylic containers that have a divided section to it that helps to keep them neat and organized. And I have smaller in the front, larger in the back, so it's easy to flip through. You'll notice I do this a lot in my scrap room. I'm a big fan of flipping through your supplies. I think it helps to know what you have and where it is. And so I do quite often flip through my supplies. I like to see what I've got, find and discover new things, and have a bit of fun with it. I have two of those acrylic trays in here. And then just in the extra bit on the side, I have put my chipboard pieces because these largely don't fit in the trays anyway. So I have them off to the side. So these are just packages of small chipboard. I have a ruler here. It's kind of a Thicker's guide that I got somewhere. And on the back are my pre-cut cut files. Now I do not have a silhouette anymore. And so I have ordered from a few different places some pre-cut cut files, and I just keep them here because it's easy to find them. Now I do keep some empty containers here on the second level. This is great for if you open up an ephemera pack and you just want to dump it out and see what's in it, but don't want it all over your desk. This is a great option. I do keep these closed for that purpose. Now, turning this back around, here I have some empty of those thick envelopes from Citrus Twist and Felicity Jane. These are great for if I'm taking fussy cutting anywhere, and these came with their kits. And so I just put my fussy cutting scissors and a few scraps of paper to fussy cut, and I can take them with me to an appointment and not have to drag a lot of supplies with me. Everything stays contained in here. I also have a couple of kits in here. I have one here from Citrus Twist, a few from Elle Studio. Those were likely from sales. I do incorporate those into my kits pretty often. I have all of my American Craft sticker books piled up here in the center. I try to reach for these. I'd love to be able to use these up because they've been here a little while, so I don't want to keep things in my stash a long time, and since I want to use them, I keep them close at hand. I have a lot of 6x8 papers here. Most of them are from Citrus Twist or Freckled Fawn, and so I keep these close at hand because I really like this size. I also have a lot of the journaling pads from Chamel stacked right here as well. I use those quite often too. Those are a big part of my smash booking I did for 2 years. I have some larger Prima stamps and some other envelopes here for die storage that I don't really use, but they're there if I need them. My good watercolor brushes are in here in this set. I use this for watercoloring as well to tape down my paper too, give it a nice firm surface. Down at the bottom are my in-process projects. So I have a tote bag that's just there from a cherry on top. Really love it, so it's there. I have a few mini albums I haven't even started, a couple of citrus twist kits I haven't opened, I need to use. I have some traveler's notebooks I need to finish. I have a Bible journal and a 6x8 album that is supposed to have my poetry in it, but I have not gotten around to doing that yet. I have a couple of mini albums here. One of them is a memorial album, and the other one is my Let's Stay Home mini, folio flip or whatever it's called. And both of these are on my channel. So if you look up, there's a memorial mini album playlist that shows you how I made that one, because I made that mini album, and then have been filling it over time. And the Let's Stay Home collection that I use for this folio, I have a flip through of that as well on the channel. One of the things that I will note, okay, the Michaels cart feels more stable when it's empty because it's heavier. But once you fill it full of stuff, it's actually a bit awkward to move around because it's so heavy and the wheels get a bit stuck. The IKEA cart, when you first put it together, you're like, oh, I don't know, it's a bit shaky. It's not quite as stable, I guess. It doesn't fall over, but it doesn't feel as sturdy when you're moving it around. But once you load it up, it is so nice that it is not so awkward and heavy to move around. So I will mention that about the two. I will be putting up on my channel sometime this year a real compare and contrast, showing you all of what comes with each cart and my full thoughts on both. But this is how I organize my craft carts. So this is the office area of my room. I have my computer. I have a small DVD player, which I watch Harry Potter movies on occasionally when I'm crafting. I have a blue snowball microphone. That is what I use for my voiceovers. And I have a really nice standing desk setup. So there's a little lever under this top part of the platform that pushes it up to a standing height. And I really, really enjoy that option because quite often my back hurts if I sit too long. I have my planner up at the top here, and what that does is lets me plan all of my YouTube videos out so I know when something is due, when I need to get it filmed, when I need to get it uploaded. So that is there. I have an extra light here that I don't use currently, and so I just stuck it back there for now. These books here are for my writing. So I will show you close up what they are, but they're mostly thesauruses and idea books, research books, things like that. And then I have a small stack of photos here that I haven't organized yet that came from my daughter's school. Here is my HP printer. I don't mind this printer, but it's not my favorite. It's an HP OfficeJet Pro 8025. And in retrospect, I wish that I had bought a printer that does better with digital designs because I'd like to print more printables and digital products. But this thing sucks ink like crazy. So if you want to do printables, I wouldn't really recommend this. But as a printer, it's fine. It's great. It's a 3-in-1. It does the job. So these are the books that I keep close at hand for my writing. This is the Encyclopedia of Fairies, which is a very old and hard to get a hold of book. I was very excited to get my hands on this one. And I also have The Vanishing People. I have a few different thesauruses. This is a series, this set here. Writer's Guide to City Spaces. It's a writer's guide to a lot of things. So this has the urban setting, how to write about cities, occupations, emotions, negative traits, positive traits, things like that. Things that are really helpful for when you're writing and you get a little bit stuck on character development. Save the Cat Writes a Novel is a good step-by-step guide on writing a novel. So I always find that very handy as well. The planner that I use is this Harry Potter one from Paper House Designs. And one of the things I love about it is that it not only has some of the illustrations, but on the month tabs, check that out. Is that not cool? I love that. I love it so much, but I just use the monthly pages to plan out. I don't really use the weekly ones, but I use the monthly ones to plan out videos, and I just write in the video that's going up that day, and that helps me kind of get an overview of the month and see what I want to, when I want to film things. And I do sometimes write notes in the weekly pages. Let's see. So yeah, just a lot of notes, random things. But those are the books that I keep really close to my computer to reach for reference. Underneath of this desk, I have one small Alex drawer system here, and this is largely scrapbooking supplies, where my other one on the other side of the desk is mostly for office supplies. This one is more for scrapbooking. Now that seems a little backward because my office area is on this side and my scrapbooking is over here, but I'm right-handed and I tend to reach this direction for supplies when I'm crafting, and so it was more important for me to have that close to my crafting space. So in this drawer, I keep my twine. So larger rolls are back here, wrapped are here, a couple loose pieces here, and then all of my color twine is lined up in a row here. I do have some brads. I don't use them, I'll be honest, but I do have them. I kind of keep them mostly for challenges that call for brads, just because I don't love brads. I don't love poking holes in my paper like that and having metal sticking out the back, so I don't use them very often. I keep my favorite 2 pairs of scissors here in this drawer because if I leave them out, my girls will cut their hair. Out of sight, out of mind. So I have my Tim Holtz tiny snips, and then I use the American Crafts rose gold shears. I like these because they have nice long blades, which makes it easier to cut straight lines. So I keep those in here. I also have my T-square ruler, again, something I grab for all of the time, and so that's why it's in the top shelf. Here's where I keep my extra pens. These are my favorite pens that I reach for quite often and have to replace quite often because I use them all the time. So I do use a couple of different journaling pens. One of them is the Muji pen. It's a gel ink pen, and then I also like the Zig Millennium 05. So I use both of those and buy them in bulk. I also like, for a white pen, the Signo Broad from Uniball. And so I go through those pretty quickly in art journaling. I keep some Spectrum Noir markers up here to color wood veneer mostly. There's some binder clips in here, just some random 3D embellishments, things like tiny clothespins, some metal embellishments, and some of these like bigger jewels, things like that. Just kind of a catch-all for 3D embellishments. I've been thinking I need to organize these, but I just haven't done it yet. So they get buried under all the pins. Pulling out the drawer a little further, I have a lot of these little embellishment containers from Felicity Jane, and I use them to hold my scattering pieces. So these are little glitter paper that I've cut up using those punches from earlier. I have all of my tiny alphas in one stack here. They're not really organized because I have a tendency to just toss them back in here, but I don't have a bazillion, so it's not a big deal to just flip through. As I've said, you'll see that my flip through preference is quite obvious in the way that I store things. On this side, I have a number of what I call scattering stickers. So they're tiny stickers that I use for scattering bits, and I have several of each. So I just reach in here and pop one of these into a container on my desk when I run out, and it's a great go-to. If you don't have any tiny scattering pieces or enamel dots in your kit, you can grab some of these and they work just as well. So those I just keep at the back, and this is drawer 1. Now drawer 2 is my ink and foam drawer. So I have all of my acrylic blocks here. I have quite a few different sizes of acrylic blocks. I have a really big one here at the bottom. I have some smaller ones. This is probably the smallest one that I have. I don't stamp a ton, but I do really enjoy Catherine Puller ink. So I don't have all of them or anything like that, but just the colors I'm most likely to use. I have here at the top, I have my favorite archival inks in black and navy and gray, I believe. And then I have a couple of others that I've tried them. I have Versamark, of course. I have tried this white pigment StazOn, and I don't love it. but I have it. So I just keep those all together. So these are the only ink pads that I use for stamping. Back here, I did finally find one of my journaling genies. The one I really love has disappeared and I just don't know where it is. And so I do use this occasionally, but not often. I have foam, adhesive foam. I also have some white vellum underneath of here and some glitter foam that I just rarely ever use because I forget it's down there. It doesn't punch well either, so that's probably why I haven't used it. But that is drawer number 2. Drawer number 3 is my Nuvo and adhesive drawer. So I have a small little container here of my favorite colors of Nuvo, mostly neutrals, blacks, navy, white, lots of different colors of gold, a nice antique pink, a few stickles to add a little bit of glitter. This is my favorite color of gold, so I do have some extras of these in here. And then the rest is pretty much adhesives and maintenance supplies. So I do have some epoxy flare just there. I have several different types of glue. This is a sticky thumb. I've got glossy accents. I just have a couple of sprays, just my two gold sprays mixed in. Things that I really grab for on every layout, and my adhesives. So a variety of adhesives. I don't use rollers anymore, but I do have one in case my daughter wants to scrap because she prefers them. Some Velcro that I use for mini album closures. This is my absolute favorite wet adhesive. It's a Tonic glue pen, and they're getting kind of hard to find. So I went to Tonic's website and I bought a bunch just so that I had plenty. I run through them in a few months. It takes me a couple of months to run through them, but I do use them all the time. I have some large doilies kind of tucked underneath because they take up a lot of space. Back here I have some smaller doilies. I don't use doilies very much anymore, but I like to have just a few different sizes at hand. These are foam strips and smaller foam adhesive. So I keep those together. I have some glue dots, not a ton, but I have some here that are open. And then I have more in the back that need to get used. I also keep my rolls of double-sided adhesive in the back. I get those from Amazon and they work beautifully. Really, really enjoy those. Very cheap. And then I have a Dress My Craft cutter. And so I always have extras for that particular cutter. And then I have one in here for my old cutter because I had bought it ahead of time. I also have staples and magnets for mini albums. And that's it for drawer number 3. Drawer numbers 4 and 5 both are filled with punches, and the top drawer are the ones that I reach for the most often. Simple shapes like circles, hearts, and stars. The binding bit, notepad punch, I think is what it's called. And this is a new one that I just got and absolutely love. And it does a variety of different shapes of holes, which is brilliant for tags. There is one that has different shapes as well, and I've considered getting it simply because it would be one tool to replace my 4 other tools that punch shapes. The only reason I haven't is because A, it's really expensive, and B, I already have those other tools. So I'll be replacing tools I already own, and that seems kind of superfluous. So that is drawer 4. So like I said, drawer 5 also has punches. Now these are much larger punches. I don't use these as often, but I do reach for them occasionally, especially, for example, these large stars, large diamonds, things like that I'm gonna reach for because I have multiple sizes in these shapes and I can use those for backgrounds. Now this is the area of my desk that is right next to my printer. And I keep a lot of supplies and tools that I want to use more in this space. Not necessarily things that I normally reach for, but things that I want to reach for. So in this far back corner here, I have a basket full of stencils, and then my stamps are just here. Again, you'll notice they're not in really inventoried style organization because I do like flipping through my supplies. I just find that really helpful for me, and I find that it stimulates ideas. I have some tissues, and then this little container here holds leftover bits and pieces from kits that I try to incorporate into the next kit. I always have some little scraps of cardstock here from layouts because I can use the white cardstock for stamping, I can use it for rub-ons, I can use it to map photos, and they're scraps, so I just try to use them up as much as possible. I have a photo over here of my lovely husband holding our niece, and then this is the We Are Memory Keepers 4-tier paper stand, and I keep my finished layouts on the top with white cardstock underneath. I only use basil coconut swirl for my white cardstock for most layouts. You'll see Cocoa Vanilla has its own because it's special. And then on the second level here is foundation paper from Vicki Boutin, which is my mixed media paper. Then I have a variety of colored cardstocks here. I have kind of a pinky tone one that's great for Maggie Holmes collections. I have a gray and a navy. Those are the neutrals that I use most often, other than white and black at the bottom. The black that I use is basil blackberry swirl. So I only really pick basil cardstock. I just like the weight of it, and I prefer smooth, so that's what I purchase. Now in my stencil container back there, I do have this album. And it's just a little chipboard 6x8 album, and it holds all of my smaller stencils. Because they were getting lost in that larger container, I decided to just pop them into page protectors. And some of them are labels, some of them are not. That's not really the point. The point is just so that I can see them easily and so they don't get lost or mangled in that larger container. So that's a quick idea to get your smaller stencils organized. Okay, so this is my main workspace for crafting. I have 3 lights that I got from Amazon, and they have filtered lights. So there's like a piece of plastic that is frosted on top of the light so you don't get those direct glares on your projects. But just to avoid that further, I actually keep them up. They're kind of vertical. They're not leaned over my workspace because I find that creates a lot of shadowing that I don't really like. But I'm creating ambient light by keeping them pointed more toward where the camera sits in this little clamp here, instead of pointing it down directly onto my work surface. I do keep my iPad here because I watch a lot of YouTube while I'm scrapping. My son has a game phone there. This little container is from Hobby Lobby or Michael's, one of the two, and it just has a lot of extra bits and pieces. We'll look at that in just a second. I have a nice little decorative sign here, and then I keep my giant Hogwarts Hufflepuff cup over here. Now let's talk about this phone mount. Now I get a lot of questions about how I film my videos. This is a phone mount from Amazon. It is clamped to a small piece of wood that is then clamped to my work surface. And by moving this around, it has a movable arm here that you can bend and stretch and move around. I can easily film my videos just using my iPhone. I like using my iPhone, A, because it has a pretty darn good camera, and B, because it uploads directly to the internet. I don't have to plug it into my computer, and I don't have to mess around with memory cards. So for me, that's just so much easier. And then I download it straight into my computer. This is not expensive. This is very inexpensive to get on Amazon. I'll link as much of this stuff as I can find for you guys in the description box below. But this is a very cheap system to set up on your desk if you want to try filming videos. And I definitely encourage you to give it a try. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it helps you learn about the process that other scrapbookers go through creating process videos and tutorials for us to enjoy. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I do like to keep a lot of small containers full of my most used items close at hand. I like things close at hand, as you can tell. My desk is pretty full outside of my immediate work area because I like to be able to reach for things quickly and easily and not have to wander my craft room just to find cardstock, for example. So this little container has my adhesives. I do use three different sizes of tape. This is just a cherry on top's tape, which is super, super sticky. I do love it. It's great for mini albums especially, but for regular layouts, I do like a little bit more temporary adhesive at first, and my Amazon adhesive does better for resticking if I have to pull something back up. So I use 1/8 inch 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch. So those are the 3 sizes I use most often. And like I said, I just get that from Amazon, and I'll link that for you below. Behind the adhesive, I do have some washi here. I have some journaling cards, some, like I said, little scattering bits and pieces. So like those tiny stickers I was showing you earlier, keep one a set of each in here. I keep an enamel dot set in here. These are some gold sequins from a craft store. I also have my Tim Holtz mini phrase stickers back behind. So I have a one that's almost used up and then a new one behind that. And then just any papers that I want to keep track of, notes, things like that that tend to get lost on the desk, I tend to stick in here because it's easier for me to find them later. So over on this side of my desk, this is the left side of my desk, and over here is my craft cart. So this is the very edge of my L-shaped desk. I have some smaller containers. I have one that has just leftover scattering bits. Can you tell I really like tiny details? I like to tease people that I have ADHD and I'm a Virgo. Details are all I care about. So this is just some punched and fussy cut tiny shapes, mostly hearts. These I keep here for things like sequins or tiny embellishments that I want to just pour out but not put all over my desk. I use these tiny bowls from Target. These bowls I think came from Amazon, and again, they're just smaller bowls. I keep wood veneer on my desk and my favorite tiny stamp. Let me show it to you. This was part of a larger set from Elle Studio, but look how perfectly tiny those shapes are. I love this stamp and I need to use it more. But I also keep a selection of wood veneer in case I want to reach for some. I have some labels in this bowl and the bottom one's empty. Again, in case I want to pour out an embellishment container, ephemera pack, things like that. Now I do have a couple of videos about photo storage and organization. This is my system. And essentially I have a little notebook here where I write out all the layouts that I want to make for the year. And then each of my photos has a Post-it that tells me the important information. What it's about, how many photos are involved, what size the layout needs to be, and the year. And that's all the information I need to just pull it out and make a layout, not have to go do a bunch of research for every single page or have to go print photos every time I want a scrapbook. I have this right at hand, a big stack of photos that I print in large batches twice a year so that I always have photos at the ready to scrap. Back here is my desktop trash can that I decorated, and I don't use this terribly often at my desktop. I actually take this quite often with me to the couch to do some fussy cutting. I just find it really helpful to have this tiny trash can that perfectly will like squeeze between me and the couch. I can just sort of toss in little scraps of paper and things like that so I'm not making a mess while I'm sitting there fussy cutting. But I really enjoy this, and I do use it pretty frequently for fussy cutting. But that's also why it lives way back there and isn't really accessible, because I don't really use it at my desk. Now, this is an IKEA Fjalla, F-J-A-L-L-A. And I will link this for you down below as well. And I use this to store my kits. I have 2 of these, and then I have another similar organizer that I got from Tuesday Morning. But essentially this holds my entire kit along with an embellishment tray that is actually a condiment tray from Amazon. So it's kind of an acrylic condiment tray. And I find this so much easier to work from. Having this right next to my workspace makes it easy to grab the bits and pieces. I'm not pulling them out of a bag, and they're not in a pile or something like that that I'm having to dig through. When I'm scrapbooking, I don't want to flip through things. When I'm looking for something to scrapbook with before I film, then I don't mind flipping through things. I actually enjoy flipping through things. But when I'm actually scrapbooking, I want to see everything that I have. And this tiered system really helps with that. It helps me be able to quickly grab the things that I want and add them into my layouts. You'll notice my glue, it just lives here because I use it all of the time. And while it's supposed to go in one of the buckets of my cart where my journaling pens are, yeah, it doesn't. It lives here because I just reach for it all the time. So that is my desktop. Now I have one more set of drawers to show you real quick before we move on to the rest of the room. So this is the second set of drawers of Alex drawers that I have under my desk. I also keep my Dress My Craft cutter under here, and it just makes it easy to reach for. I do kind of wish that I had some sort of shelf under here so that I could put things like my cutter underneath and just reach in and pull them out. However, my desk chair is pretty short and this tabletop is already pretty tall, so I haven't done that, but it is a great idea. In this first drawer, we do have pretty much mostly office supplies, so I just keep things like whiteout. I only write in pen. I don't really write in pencil, so I keep a lot of whiteout here. I do a lot of note taking and annotating and things like that. I have my favorite pens and highlighters, again, annotating books. I need highlighters. I have a pretty big variety of pens and pencils in here because my kids reach in here too, and so it's just whatever I have. Bookmarks, of course, live here. I do a lot of reading. I use these little flags, again, for annotating and taking notes, research, etc. Now back here, I keep a stack of little notepads and things. If I have anything I want to write down real quick, whether it's a grocery list, whatever, I have these quick and easy to reach. I have my stapler and my staple remover in the back. I don't use them very often. Same with paper clips. I don't use those very often, so they're just a little container in the back. And then Post-its I use all of the time. So they're a little bit more forward, but this is one of those things where I like to keep little stacks of things. You'll notice I do have some containers within drawers, but most of the time I just keep things in stacks because that's the way my ADHD brain works. I don't know. I like piles of things. Drawer number 2 has my 3-hole punch, which I hardly ever use. It also has correspondence stuff, so I have some nice journaling writing paper. I have correspondence I need to respond to and stamps all together. I have index cards that I often use to add journaling strips. I just cut them up on the lines, and that makes for a perfect size journaling strip, I find. I have my label maker, and these are extra supplies, things like glass protectors for your phone and tablet because my kids are destructive, and some extra label maker tape back here. So I do like to group like things together. You may have noticed that already. In drawer 3, I have more index cards. This is my homeschool and writing drawer. So I have index cards here for homeschooling and for note-taking for my books. I have a project in process where I'm taking my old recipes and putting them into a nicer format. So I have those to work on. I have a binder and a notebook for notes about my novel series that I'm writing. And then at the back, I keep homeschool documents and computer programs that we use for homeschool, as well as printables and things like that for easy reference. In the 4th drawer, I just have printer paper, so like photo paper in a variety of sizes, and just additional things that I don't use very often, so like empty little storage bags, a little storage tin, an extra iPad cord, and this little charging thing that I just never use. So as we go down, less important things end at the bottom. At the very bottom, it's your typical miscellaneous office supplies, labels, CDs, extra pens, page protectors, that sort of thing, ink for the printer. I don't have a lot of additional storage in here outside of what you're going to see for scrapbooking supplies. So all of my office supplies really have to stay in these drawers, which is fine because I don't access them hardly ever anyway. So that is my second set of Alex drawers. So behind my main crafting desk, I have another set of Alex drawers. I think these ones actually may have come from Michael's, and I'll be honest, I don't love them. They're not as sturdy, but they do the job. So there they are. I have a basket up here. I have a couple of larger totes along the top of this 2x4 Calyx from IKEA. That is my second kit that I got from Tuesday Morning, that little organizer there. It's faced into my desk so I can reach it if in case I want to pull in something from that kit. I'll go through each of the areas to show you what's in them, but I just want to kind of give you an overview of what's behind my desk. So this butts right up to my workspace, and it gives me some additional storage for a lot of bits and pieces. As you can see, I prefer open storage for the most part. I do have a lot of drawers, but they're all labeled. All of my extraneous drawers from here on out are pretty well labeled with what's in them because I prefer to be able to see what I have and access it quickly. So this 2x4 Kallax largely holds embellishments and pocket life cards that are in collections, and it makes it really easy for me to find random bits and pieces to add specifically to my stash kits. This drawer system, on the other hand, is more specifically to hold collections. So I have quite a few collections from my favorite scrapbook designers, and one of my goals for 2022 is going to be making a pretty big dent in these types of collections because I've had them for at least 4 or 5 years. Now, let's start here. At the top is this big pink basket. And what this is are collections that I call miscellaneous. So these are collections that I don't consider my favorite brands. So each of my favorite brands has a drawer or two to hold my favorite collections within those brands. This one's kind of a miscellaneous basket. So this has some Simple Stories, it has some Bella Boulevard, it has some Echo Park. These are not collections or brands that I love, that I consider my favorite brands. And so they don't get their own drawer. But I do have a few individual collections that I love, and so those stay here, and they're each in a 2-gallon bag. So to give you a little better idea of what's in here, I have things like the Bella Boulevard Chloe collection, which was a cat-themed collection. Well, that's obviously not something I'm going to use super often because I don't even have cats, but I thought it was a beautiful collection and had some pretty papers, so I bought it. Things like Echo Park Magical Birthday. That's just not something I'm going to reach for all the time. So I have one-off collections like that. Things like the Hello Today collection from Simple Stories. I'm using that for my project Life this year, so I keep it close at hand. I use it every month. I also have printable collections in here. So things like Tracy Reed's printable collections that I talk about quite frequently, I keep in this basket, printed out, ready to go. And I use those quite often. I have random bits and pieces in bags in this one. So this is one that I try to reach for and pull bits and pieces out for projects that don't necessarily have a demand. So there's no design team commitment. There's no, I need washi or anything like that. If it's just, I want to make a layout, I will quite often come reach for these random collections first. Below that pink basket, I have this set of drawers. As you can see, it is labeled. So each of the designers have their own drawer that I love. Amy Tangerine's is a bit bursting at the moment. I do need to go through this one, but they each have their own drawers. It makes it quick and easy for me to find collections. I told you I do like flipping through collections. So they're all in 2-gallon bags by collection. I know these really well. And so if I see this, okay, that's Fifth and Monaco. I don't even need to see the label because I know what it is. Okay, that's the birthday collection from Pink Paisley. I know exactly what these collections have in them. I know their color schemes, and that's why they're my favorites. And so this is the way I store my collections. I keep everything together from that collection for a while at least. One of the things I'm going to start doing in 2022 is start to move them out of this system. So I'm going to continue to put collections in here, but I need to start pulling out the older ones and interspersing them in with my stash so that I'll be more likely to reach for them for stash kits, because I don't find myself as eagerly going through these for stash kits. So here's the start of a Vicki Boutin collection. Actually, there's 2 sets of drawers for Vicki Boutin because I love her stuff. You'll see my favorites have 2 drawers. So 2 for Vicki Boutin, and then the bottom one is Dear Lizzie. So this makes it very easy for me to find exactly what I'm looking for because my brain remembers things by collection and designer and not by theme or color. So I'm not gonna go, I need a red paper and want to go dig through all of this stuff to find red paper. No, I have single sheets of paper for that. These are specifically for, this photo is perfect for the Fifth and Monaco collection. And I can just go and grab that collection and scrap that photo, put it away, done. And for me, that's just the way my brain works. And so that's why this system works for me. On top of the 2x4 Kalex, I do have this kit sitting here. So I always have a second kit sitting within reach of my desk because I like variety. And sometimes there's the perfect piece on this chipboard that I want to use with my stash kit, and that's fine. As long as it's getting used, I don't care. So I have my condiment embellishment tray here and my kit here, so I can easily reach in, grab a piece of paper or whatever it is I need for that kit. I have found that if I turn this around and the embellishment tray is here, my twins tend to get into things, so I don't do that very often. Next, I have a little cube organizer from Amazon, and it has a lot of 3D embellishments in it. So this has a lot of things like puffy stars and hearts. It has charms. It has acrylic pieces, some really big ribbon pieces, some buttons. This one's actually been put in backwards. Guess my girls were playing with it. So I don't use this to its fullest. And when I was talking earlier about my drawers and having some miscellaneous pieces in a basket, I need to put those in here and get them organized because I'm just more likely to use them that way. So next to this is a container of large stickers and sticker sheets. And this is a 31 bag. I also have extra packaging pieces that came on ephemera and enameled shapes and dots and whatever. And when I use them up, I keep the packaging because I put fussy cut florals and shapes in those for my kits. So in this bag, I keep a variety of stickers, chipboard pieces, just the larger embellishment packs that I add to my stash kit. Again, a lot of these come from grab bags or clearance sales, things when they go on pretty cheap. I'll go pick up several of things, some of my favorite brands especially, and that's for building stash kits. I just keep those larger pieces in size order so that they're easy to flip through. Behind that is a larger tote that has my specialty paper. So this is cut files from like Bella Boulevard, who does their own series of cut files, acetate, vellum, any decorative sort of specialty papers I keep in this bin just because it's out of the way. I don't reach for it a lot. I grab like one piece for each kit, something like that. And this is the 2x4 Kalex that is underneath and behind my desk. Obviously, it has this very narrow gap here that was necessary because this isn't a giant room and I have a lot of giant furniture. And so I put things back here that I don't need a ton of access to or are easy to pull out. Things like copy paper and white cardstock go down there. So like 8.5 by 11 white cardstock that I don't use very often, I keep it down there. And these are just storage containers that I don't really need to use all the time, but are helpful for certain projects if I want to keep a small project together. Down here I have some more baskets and organizational containers that I'm not currently using, but I'm sure I'll find use for in the future. And so I keep those in their own space. Again, this is not an important area of my scrap room, and so these are not vital things that I'm keeping in this crowded space. So keep that in mind. Keep the things that you're going to use the most often and are most important to your crafting close at hand. Things like this, they can be tucked into corners and drawers that are out of the way. Now, in the rest of these cubes, I have these little pull-out acrylic drawers, and some of them have tops. Some of them have little handles. This is just a little plastic container of wood veneer, and these I find so much easier to use because they're clear. Clear storage is super, super helpful if you have an open designed room because then you can quickly see things very, very easily. Now, if seeing all of this stuff stresses you out because it does look kind of cluttered to see all of the individual pieces, then obviously, clear storage may not be for you, or maybe you use closed storage and clear inside. I personally love to see my stuff. I love to flip through. I love to touch all the things. I'm a very tactile person, and so looking through all of these embellishments really makes me happy and I really enjoy it. And so that's why I like the clear storage and mostly open storage. So I have things like wood veneer, several kinds of wood veneer. These are smaller pieces of wood veneer. These are larger pieces of wood veneer. This is a set that I got from a friend. Then I have some bows and glassine bags in this particular container. Don't reach for those very often, but I used to love them, so I have quite a few. So over here we have some more wood veneer, but it's kind of a mixed bag of icons and things, kind of an ephemera pack of wood veneer in there. So that one has its own little area. This container houses my finished mini albums, and I have quite a few in there. As you can see, I'm going to have to upgrade my container pretty soon, but I find this is a nice way for my kids to have easy access to those mini albums, and they love to come over and just pick one up and flip through it, and that's why it's readily accessible. Now in this particular cubby, I have different Project Life, I think these are called theme kits, separated in this divided container. So let me show it to you from the side. So it's a divided container, and some of them came with embellishments, so those are added in as well. I really like these. They are acrylic, and they came from Amazon. I will link for these for you below. And I'm using these mostly for my pocketless pages layouts. And I just really enjoy that there's often embellishments that go with it that I can use up with the cards. Now the rounded corner cards I quite often cut up. That's fine. I just like having an easily coordinated set to work from instead of having to bits and pieces pull for a layout. So down at the very bottom, I have my cork pieces over in this cubby. I have sequins right next to it. I have more cards here on top. I have hot glue gun supplies. And this is my tiny little die cutting machine and all of my dies. Now this is a system that I find really helpful because I don't die cut very often, and so I didn't want to invest in something expensive. So what these are just some plastic containers from Amazon. They just zip open, and then most of them there is a piece of magnet inside so that I can lay out all of the pieces and quickly see what I have. And then if there's a coordinating stamp set, it goes on the back. And like I said, I don't have a lot of dies because I don't do a lot of die cutting. These are confetti dies from Prima. I really like those to use with glitter paper. And more of those on the back. If I know the collection, I do write it on there somewhere. Like it says, We Are Memory Keepers and Heidi Swap. So those two sets are from those companies. But if I don't care, or if I will remember it, like this is a Studio Calico set. I don't know why I remember that, but I do. Pretty sure these are from Vicky Booten, and the stamp set that goes with them is right on the back. So it's pretty simple system. These little binder rings keep it all together, and this way I can just pop it down here in the cube next to my actual cutting machine, and it's very easy to grab and to use. So next to my 2x4 Kalex, I have a 4x4 Kalex. And up at the top, I did these decorative letters on a video, so you can check that out. If I remember, I'll put it in the description box below for you. And here's where I keep my two printers. I keep them up nice and high so that my twins don't get into them. I also have a tutorial and comparison contrast for the Canon Selfie and the Epson PictureMate if you want to see that. And then I have my Harry Potter figurines because I'm a big Harry Potter fan. This wand up here is from Luna Lovegood. She's my favorite. And then I just have a pencil sharpener, an additional kit that I'm using for a baby album for my niece over here to the right, and a pegboard that I'm really not using a whole lot because the things I want to put in it, that's not an accessible place for them. And so instead I keep some paints that I really like and don't want my twins messing with up high. On this first row in my 4x4 Kalex, I keep 6x6 paper pads in a basket here. I keep extra open journaling cards here. In the back are some empty traveler's notebooks that I'm just not reaching for at the moment, so I've just stored them in the back. This is the beginning of my single papers. They're in We Are Memory Keepers plastic holders. So I have two stacked high in each cube, and I have different themes and colors set up for what I reach for most often. Over here, I have a basket of ephemera packs. It's a bit overflowing at the moment. Needs a bit of organizing probably, but I love it. I have some journals here that I'm currently working in. I have some watercoloring books and empty journals for the future, if necessary, storage. And then a little figure man for drawing. And a pink Christmas tree, which I adore, and so that's where it lives. On the second shelf, I have templates here. So I have some Kiwi Lane templates. I have some chipboard templates that I have made. I have some smash books in the back here. I have some Traveler's Notebook covers that I'm not currently using in the back there. Again, using that backspace for storage that I don't need access to all the time. The rest of my single papers. I have some watercolor and painting books over here. I love to look in there for color inspiration. I also do a little bit of painting as a, second or third or fourth hobby. I also have some stitching things here. So I have thread separated by color in the bottom 3 of these containers. And this top one is specifically for my sewing machine that I fight with and don't really use. There are some page protectors in the sizes and configurations that I currently use, so I keep those separate up at the top. On the third set of shelves, I have watercolor paper here, a kit I haven't dug into yet, and some extra paintbrushes here. I have a Tim Holtz stamp platforms in 2 sizes that I bought thinking I would love, got them on clearance, and have hardly used, honestly. I have a smash book that's in progress. I have a couple of 6x8 albums that are empty, ready to be used. I have card storage here. So I have some pre-bought cards in boxes on the left, and the cards I've made on the top 2 on the right. This bottom one has photos of my husband's childhood that I'm hoping to scrap eventually, but haven't started yet. And then over in this one, I have all of my washi tape that's not currently in use on my cart. Some of the larger ones are from Pink Fresh Studio. The rest are in a Michaels or Recollections pull-out tray system that I absolutely hate, and I'll show you why in just a second. The Harry Potter movies, because of course, and an album/journal I'm making that is Harry Potter watercolor themed. Let me know if you want to see more about that, because it's kind of cute. So real quickly, I don't like this storage system, and I'm going to tell you why. It has a hole in the bottom. Who thought this was a good idea? My tiny washi tapes fall through all of the time. It is so frustrating. And so I am considering getting a different washi storage. There is a couple of different options out there, and I think there's a We Are Memory Keepers one that doesn't have holes in the bottom, and I think I may upgrade to that in the future. On the bottom level, I have some extra 9x12 albums and page protectors. I don't have room for these at the moment in my current album storage, and so they're just living here. A pile of blank chipboard. I bought them for mini albums. I have too many. That probably needs to be purged down a little bit. I have a container here that is full of my fuse tool and all of its accessories. I have the Sizzix Big Shot here, and these are my oldest son's baby albums that don't fit in the album shelf anymore. Tucked back into this corner, I have a nice big picture window here that you saw at the beginning of the video. I have a magazine holder set from Totally Tiffany, I think that's right. I hope that's right. And I love these because they hold 12x12 paper. So all of my Cocoa Vanilla collections are in order by date, in a place of honor, because they are the best thing ever. I love Cocoa Vanilla. I'm a little obsessed. You probably already know this if you follow me. I do have some white cardstock back here that's from Hamilco that has a bit of a gray tone that works so perfectly with Cocoa Vanilla collections. So I just keep it specifically with those. It's special paper just for Cocoa Vanilla. These 2 sets of drawers here are from Recollections and are falling apart. I'm going to have to find a better solution for those eventually, but for now they are working. Below those 2 storage units is a set of wide Alex drawers, again holding more collections, just some Paige Evans, Pink Fresh Studio, Crepe Paper, and Felicity Jane. Again, some of my favorite designers. Still in 2-gallon bags separated by collection, and I am hoping to clean those out a little bit in the next year or so. This cart over here is my son's homeschool cart, so he puts all of his homeschool supplies, his books, papers, tools, pencils, etc. in this cart, and it is so helpful. Now these two pieces back here are poster boards that I use to take photos of my finished projects. And I always use natural light. That's why it's helpful to have this table here as well with the window, because I can open the blinds, lay down my project on one of these poster boards, either the white wood grain or the white background. I find both work really well and photograph really well. And using natural light, you can get really good pictures of your projects that way. Tucked into this crevice here are some extra Life Crafted albums from Citrus Twist. I did buy a bunch of them when they had a sale, and really enjoying this size at the moment for some of my older stories from my past and childhood. I also have another of those magazine holders that has Kaisercraft in it. I'm not being helpful. There, Kaisercraft is in that one, which I do really like, but I just don't reach for, so I don't mind that it's kind of out of the way. This is where my sewing machine lives. It never leaves this spot, but I put it out in the open so that hopefully I'm going to get interested in it someday. I don't know. I need to take the time to sit down and learn how to use it properly, because at the moment it just takes my thread and yanks it out of the needle every time I turn it on. So at the top of my 4x4 Kalex on this wall, I have boxes that I'm expecting to use when we move. These are empty. This and this are empty except for some canvases I need to mount on wood. Those are extra doilies I'm not currently using. These are kits that I put together into iris containers and have abandoned, need to disassemble probably. I have some extra supplies, my heat gun that I don't use, extra photos for years I've already scrapped. Coloring pencils and markers are here. That's for my personal coloring if I feel the whim. I have paper pads and extra storage here, especially for layouts that are in progress and I don't want to leave out. I use this one for my favorite mixed media stuff, and I will give you a little sneaky preview close-up of that particular cube. This one has note card blanks and envelopes for making cards. This one has a lot of larger photos, and some back there are some inks I don't use very often, and so they're blocked so the twins don't get interested and go check them out. And just some other odds and ends that I just don't reach for very often. In this cube, I have my favorite mixed media items that I reach for about half the time. I more often reach for the ones in my cart, but these are some of my favorite colors. I do have an acrylic stair-step tiered organizer here. What is that, display thing? And I use that to be able to see everything. I have larger bits like gesso, primers, things of that nature back here on the left, and then the smaller stuff in the front. Tiering things helps me find things so much easier. But that's it for my kind of favorite mixed media stuff that I reach for about half of the time. The rest of my Kalex unit is for album storage. As you can see, it's pretty full at the moment. I have some Life Crafted albums in progress up here. This top level is older albums that are finished. This level is older albums that are finished to about here, and then this one has some in progress. I also have my December dailies mixed in, smash books mixed in, baby albums mixed in, pregnancy albums mixed in to the different years. So they're in order by year, not necessarily by type. And then the bottom four and this one are just specifically for my kids' albums. So they each have a cube. This is my oldest, second oldest, middle child, and the twins. They each know their color scheme and they can come look at their albums anytime that they want. They do sometimes look at these albums, but more often they're looking for pictures of themselves. And so some of these are full, some of these are empty and in progress, and I've just allotted these spaces for those albums. That's it for my craft room tour. I know this was a long one, guys, but I wanted to give you a lot of detail about storage ideas, how I keep things that are open storage, easy to find, and clean looking. and how I fit so much into a moderate space. It's not small, but it's a moderate space. I hope this was helpful. If you have any comments or suggestions or thoughts, please put them in the comments below. And I will try to put that whole long list of links I promised you in the description. Until next time, bye guys.